Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing my October reading wrap up. I think it is crazy that we're already in November. Technically you're in November, I'm in October filming this, but you get what I mean. I don't know what is in the air in October. It is just my favorite month of the year. It is such a gorgeous month outside. Fall weather is my favorite, and I think October is really when the fall weather shines. I don't know what it was with reading this month, but I read so many good books, so I have a lot of very exciting reads to talk about. I kind of said the word exciting in my intro, but not how I usually say it. Also, I'm very sorry if you can hear the AC. It's really hot in my apartment right now, and I'm sorry. I'm not gonna sweat filming this video. These are all of the books that I read this month. I also did read some books on my Kindle, so we're going to talk about those first, just so I don't forget those. So, the two books that I read on my Kindle, which if you watched my last reading vlog, I technically filmed my September reading vlog a little bit early, so I have 3 books in this video that I did read at the end of September, but they're in this one. Long story short, it's just to make it easier, we're going to talk about those books. So I read Divine Rivals when I was going to Vegas in September. I do not remember what I rated that one, just being real. I gave that one a 3.75. I'm sure you know what Divine Rivals is about, but if you do not, for some reason, it is kind of a fantasy. It is a fantasy, but it's more so kind of like a historical romance. It feels more so just like a wartime romance in a weird way. Our main character, she has this typewriter that was basically handed down to her through her, I think it was her grandmother gave it to her, and she uses this typewriter to write notes to her brother, but she doesn't know that the notes are not going to her brother, they're going to someone else. Her brother is deployed in war, and you basically kind of follow her journey of becoming like a journalist, a newspaper writer, and what goes on with this war that's going on in this world. I thought it was very good, very interesting. I don't know if I would read if there's a second one coming out. It didn't like wow and amaze me. I thought it was good, but yeah. So I read that on my Kindle, and actually I think that's the only book that I read on my Kindle. I have no idea how many books I read this month. I'm all over the place. We're going to get into the book that I need to talk about, and I'm sure everyone knows what book this is going to be, because this is the book that I was like the most excited about for this year. A Curse for True Love. It came out a week ago. It came out this past week. This is going to have heavy spoilers. If you have not read this book, if you do not want any spoilers for this book, please skip to this time, because I am going to be talking in depth about this. Also, sorry if the lighting is odd. My window is like doing weird stuff. So obviously, if you've read this series, you know that in the last book we ended off on this huge cliffhanger. So this book starts off heavy with her and Apollo. And I thought it was very interesting for like the first 2/3 of the book were pretty much only directly with her and Apollo and her in the castle. She doesn't have her memories. It wasn't until like a third into the book that we got Jax. And even then, like, she couldn't really remember him, and he was pretending to be Archer. All of these things. Let me just say, so I had this ending built up in my head, because if you've read this series, which if you have not read this series, I don't know why you're still on this part of the video, because I'm directly talking about insane spoilers for this series, and you need to experience this book before you listen to this. But a big plot point of this series, and basically how this series starts, is Ava, whatever, makes a deal with Jax, and in return, Jax gets 3 kisses that he can redeem at any time. His first kiss, I believe, goes to Apollo. I don't even remember who the first 2 kisses go to, but in the series, he's already used up 2 kisses. In this book, like pretty close to the beginning, she looks at her wrist and she has the broken heart, and it's like doing the thing basically where it's telling her that Jax is near. She brings up the tattoo and the deal directly in this book, and that is the only time that we hear anything about this deal, about the kisses and anything like that. In my mind, I had built up an ending where the first kiss that Jax and her shared was going to be him redeeming his last kiss, and it wasn't that. We didn't get that, and I think that was so disappointing. Now, let me just say, I still would rate this a 4.75 to a 5-star book, just because I loved the character so much. It felt so good to be back in this world. I think she is such an amazing storyteller. It really does feel like a fairy tale. That being said, for this to be the last book of the series was kind of disappointing a little bit, but I think it's just because I loved this series so much that I had it built up something in my head to be different than what it was, and that is totally fine. It is definitely like the authors, you know, this is their baby, this is their work, they get to choose what happens in the series, but I was just really hoping for that major plot point for the rest of the books to be something that happens in this book, and it wasn't. And I don't know, I'm very sad we didn't really get a lot of the side characters. For some reason, like the 3 characters that we care about in this book are literally her, Apollo, and Jax. We got a little bit of Lala, we got a little bit of Aurora. Besides for that, I don't know. I did like this book, and this series is still a 5-star series in my mind. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So yeah, still love that series. I'm planning on starting Caraval very soon, so I can kind of go back into that world in a little bit of a different sense. And then going into a book that I DNF'd this month. This was in a reading vlog I was trying to finish. This was part of my fall TBR. Now, in that vlog, I was saying a lot that this was like a murder mystery. I totally know that this is a dark academia murder mystery, but I am not someone who likes characters who are very, you have to critique the characters are written to be imperfect and that you're not supposed to like the characters. The point of me reading, I read to escape reality. 100% reading as a hobby is escapism for me. I just didn't get this book. I didn't like it. I think I read to like page 100 something, and first off, I think this is very funny because I was thinking this, and then I think Destiny Sidwell read this month. I don't know if she finished it or if she DNF'd it, but she said this in a video, so I felt very just like, okay, I'm not the only one who thinks that. The pages of this book are as thin as the fucking Bible, and I'm an ex-Catholic. They're thin. They're so thin, and the words are so small. I don't have a lot of time to read anymore now that I work full-time, and I just didn't want to waste my time that I can read on this book. I know that the people that love this series really do love this series. One of my good friends, Caitlin, she loves this book. When I told her that I just didn't get it and I was DNFing it, she was like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's a stunning book cover, and I really wish that I got this book, but I did not. So this was a DNF. We're gonna move on. This book, a book that I didn't think I was going to get to this month. So this was the 7-Year Slip. I had such a good time reading this book. I rated this book a 5-star. It was so good. The ending 50 or 75 pages of the book where everything starts to kind of connect and make sense. There is a direct scene. It's a huge spoiler. If you want to like know what scene I'm talking about, go on my Goodreads and look at my Goodreads review of this book. I talk about the scene that I'm thinking of. It was so mind-blowing and well done that I had to go back and reread it like 3 or 4 times just to like, it was so good. It was so good. This is a book that when you're reading it, you're kind of confused, and I am definitely a reader who I'm like, okay, logistically that doesn't make any sense, but you can't, just don't think of that when you're reading this book. It was so good. I really want my mom to read this. She's probably watching this video. I was going to give this book to her last time I saw her, but I forgot to give it to her. I need to remember to give this to her to read. This is just one of those books that I think when you read it, it very much gives you the vibes of there is no right person, wrong time, because when you meet the right person, it is going to be the right time type of a thing. Yeah, it was just a very cute romance. It is about this girl who is living in her aunt's apartment in New York City, and her aunt always used to tell these kind of fairy tales about how her apartment was magical and it could go 7 years in the future or the past, and she kind of is like, okay, that's just something my aunt used to say when I was a kid, but now that I'm older, I don't believe it anymore. She moves into the apartment because of circumstances that happen. Obviously, the apartment is magical, and she meets someone and has a magical time. And yeah, it's not a fantasy. It's just a fun little romance, but very cute, very good read. I'm very happy that Book Talk put me on this one in book 2. This is my favorite book that I read this month, by far. Favorite book. I have an entire reading vlog on this book. Please, if you are going to read any book out of all of the books that I'm talking about in this wrap up, please read this one. This is a 6 out of 5-star read. It is Bad Luck Charm by Julie Johnson. This is actually going to be, I believe, an interconnected series. So this book is about a girl who she takes over her aunt's, basically like a, I shop at them all the time and I'm forgetting what the word is. A shop that sells like tarot cards and like crystals, things like that. It's on the tip of my tongue and this is actually going to piss me off. Her aunt passes away, so she takes over her aunt's shop, and it's in Salem, Massachusetts, so very much giving off witchy vibes. It's kind of more one of those like occult shops, so also gives off witchy vibes. The end of this book, I believe the entirety of the book takes place in October, but there's like direct scenes that happen the day of and the night before Halloween. So I read this during the perfect time, reading it in October. I don't think you have to read this in October to enjoy it. I just think it's a very good book, and it does a very good job of putting you in that sort of fall witchy sort of mood. The book itself is about Gwen takes over the shop, and like sacrifice happens outside of the alley of the shop, and this guy Graham, who she kind of has a history with in the past, he is kind of like a police investigator and is investigating what happened outside of her shop, and the police believe that she is endangered, so he kind of is protective of her, and it's just this romance. It's so good. That explanation was probably so ass. There are so many, like I highlighted so much in this book and just annotated, and I loved this book. I will probably reread this next October as well. I have no words. Graham is so hot. I love fictional men. Let's talk about two books that I read in September. I actually read these literally within like one sitting for each of these books. All In, which is the third book in the Natural series. I read this the week that I left for Vegas, which was really fun because this book takes place in Vegas. Obviously, can't really talk well, I can kind of talk directly about what each of these books are because it doesn't really spoil much for the series. Well, it kind of does. Never mind, I'm gonna shut up. This is book 3, this is book 4, this is Bad Blood. There's also a novella in the back of this one called 12. You probably already know what the series is about. It is about kind of children FBI people. They have natural abilities to profile, to detect lies, things like that. Very good. It's from Jennifer Lynn Barnes. She wrote the Inheritance Game series that I'm sure everyone loves. I gave this book a 4.75. I gave Bad Blood a 4-star, and then I believe I gave the novella also a 4. I gave the novella a 4.5. Very good books, very fun reads. If anyone has recommendations for similar vibes, either YA or even just adult Criminal Minds-esque books, please let me know because those are so fun. This month was definitely a month of thriller, mystery, all of that stuff. I loved reading that. So yeah, any more recommendations of books like that, let me know. I read in a reading blog, Hied by Kirsten White. This is a book that I had been wanting to read for ages. Now, this is a horror book, really short, like super short, and it is about this girl who takes part in a hide and seek game that happens in this abandoned amusement park. But the hide and seek game, it's like ultimate whatever. She doesn't realize that if you are found, you are killed. Now that sounds so amazing to read, and the book was good. However, the plot, the way that it goes and the twist that happens was not my favorite, and we're going to move on. I would love to read this book in the way that I thought this book was going to go. I think it is such an interesting concept, but I did not love the execution. So I gave this book a 2.75. If you read the book, you probably know what I'm talking about, and it's not my favorite. And then I finished Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. I have been reading this book for ages. I gave this book a 3 out of 5. Now, I will say, obviously I can't talk super about what this book is about because it's like book 6 or 7, 5, I don't know, of the Throne of Glass series. I totally understand why people would love and adore the Throne of Glass series. However, I think I wasn't enjoying it when I read the beginning books of this series. So now that I'm in the later books of the series where you're supposed to care about all the characters and all of these things, I don't care about certain characters. So it's hard for me to follow along because this is a book where there are multiple POVs. Pretty much every chapter you're switching between like 3 to 5 POVs. And like for most of them, I don't care about the POV that I'm reading. I have a love-hate relationship with this series. I totally think this is a right series, wrong time. Here's the thing. I feel like sometimes I can give books 3 out of 5s and it's like I really loved this. It's a 3 out of 5. I will recommend this. And then there are 3 out of 5s that I give and it's just, I see that this book is good and I see that could have loved and adored this book, but I probably won't recommend it just because it's not my favorite. I feel like my rating system actually makes no sense, and on each day, any book that I've ever rated at any point in my life could be a different rating than what I've said it was in the past. So This month I read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is a Penguin classic and I had a very good time reading this. However, the TV show is a lot better. This is kind of like 2 seasons of the TV show put together. I don't know. I didn't think it was terrible. Obviously it's a classic, so the writing is a little bit much to kind of get into, but it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. I'm glad that I read this because this is one of those books that I feel like I had to read just to say that I could, or that I did read it. Gorgeous copy. I do want to read some more classics. I'm thinking about reading The Crucible. Dante's Inferno would be really interesting to read. I probably would fucking hate reading that, but I'm pretty sure it's really long too. Also, there's no S at the end of any way. I read The Ex-Hex this month. I did not, I don't think, have this in any videos. Maybe I think I started it in a reading vlog. This is about Vivian and Reese. Let me just say, Reese is always going to do it to me for a name when it's R-H-Y-S. Period. They were kind of together. They basically broke up and she gets drunk and curses him in a fun little silly curse, but it turns out to be a real curse and he has to come back to Graves Glen, Georgia, charge the ley lines of the town because he's like one of the most important families of the town and she has to see him again and the curse starts affecting him. I thought this was very good. I thought it was a very cute romance. A lot of people say that this book is like Hocus Pocus, but they want to fuck. And it is. That's 100% what this book is. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. The last book that we are going to talk about is Megan Golden's Stay Awake. Now this is a thriller that is about a woman who wakes up and she has no idea where the fuck she is. She thinks that she's going to her apartment. She's in a taxi. She gets out of the taxi. She thinks she's at her apartment, but it turns out some other people live there now. She doesn't understand what's going on because she thinks it's her place. She looks down. On the palm of her hand has the phrase, "Stay awake." Oh, the lighting is nasty. Hopefully that's better. I don't even think that's any better. It's fine, we're on the last book of this video. So, wakes up, she has the phrase "stay awake" on her hand. It is one of those thrillers where she is suffering from amnesia. She has no idea what's going on. And someone is basically after her, trying to make sure that she does not remember whatever she went through. There is a murder that happens in this book, so that's kind of like dual POV between her remembering things as well as the detectives who are trying to solve the case. I did think that was very interesting, but I didn't love this book just because I think I was confused for like a majority of this book. I rated this a 3.75. Oh my god, the lighting is so bad. I think the ending was pretty good. I kind of guessed who it was. I'm not even gonna talk anymore because the lighting is so bad that we're just gonna end this video. Hi guys, can you see me? Those were all the books that I read in October. I have some very exciting plans for the rest of this year. I'm almost to 100 books. I think I'm on 86 out of 100 and I'm really hoping to get to 100 books before the end of this year. So I don't really have many plans for November for videos I have ready to do. I am currently working on filming some, but yeah, if there are any specific videos that you want me to do this month, let me know. I know Iron Flame is coming out and I would love to do a reading vlog for that. And then I'm also getting my copy of Powerless this month, so maybe I'll do another reading vlog, or if you would like me to do challenges, let me know in the comments. I will see you whenever I see you next. Thank you for watching. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, I love you. Goodbye.